BL Blankenship. And if you're already tuned in and this happens to be live, which is probably weird or probably rare, I'm just going to go ahead and say during the first few minutes of this, I'm doing this as cheaply as possible. I'm going to be at some point going over to my YouTube and all that. That's why I've got the headphones so you don't hear like my voice coming out mirroring or whatever. And copy paste, copy paste, copy paste onto my Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, or excuse me, probably not even Facebook because I don't have enough like comic people there. Even though I guess there are some, but Blue Sky, yeah. So I know that there's a lot of people that say a great amount of things who are both in mainstream comics and within the indie comic sphere, right? Lots of stuff going on. You will hear different sorts of things. Let me just talk about the indie space because I'm in the indie space, even though that's a broad thing. That's like if you're saying like horror or something as a genre, it could mean just about anything, right? You get, I think, in life in general, different kinds of tribal factions. And if you know me or know anything about me, I'm pretty much an island, okay? You get some kind of cognizance and you take a second to like look at stuff and you see things that are right. And you're like, this dude's like the prophet Jeremiah, basically, yeah. Dejected villain in ministry or whatever. Right? So, yeah, the kid that will sit alone at the lunch table, the quiet yet brilliant kid in the back of the room, all that, Bob Dylan, John Lennon, Johnny Cash, whatever, kind of vibe going on. That's, I don't have to say it. People that get it, and the other ones, even if you explained it to them, if God himself came down and told them, it wouldn't get through, so if but I'm just me. I'm just the way that I am, and I'm just really trying to kill space in talking here and now. Boom, here it comes. So, what I wanted to talk about is that the way that we look at things, that we're not all coming from the same place. Do you understand that? Not a single one of us are coming perhaps from the same place, right? So, I don't do crowdfunding. Do I have anything against crowdfunding? Absolutely not. If I knew that I could just like step up and would get the masses of people to give through crowdfunding, thereby making things easy that way. Of course, I wouldn't be doing it like other people. I'd do it the way that I would do it. If I knew that I could get an amassment of people to do that, would that make life simpler for me? Sure. There'd be a lot of things that I would do it if it worked for me, but there's stuff that works for me and there's stuff that works better for you, and you just do that type of thing. I really feel like it looks some way to do something just for face value, and it looked like it flopped. So if you take me, for example, notably in literature, I sell the unmerciful living snot out of books, have at literary stuff, outselling everybody or outselling paid guests. We're not talking about like huge like Marvel type people or Stephen King people. I'm just saying outsell a lot of people. Why? A few reasons. One, the cover art that I have that's done is exceptional and that sells books. Cover art always sells books. Do not get substandard cover art. Two, I engage people. I talk to people. I'm really personable. Everybody's like, man, it's such an extrovert. It's kind of weird because I'm in this place. I do feel alone in a crowd. If you really knew me, I'm so personal, the life of the party and all that, but that's not how I feel inside. And I know you don't get that. I'm just saying that to you. Don't believe it, whatever, it doesn't matter. I know how I am. But yeah, go up and talk to people. Hey, and this and this and this and this. And if something's for you, get it. If it's not, don't. Three, my wife is the best candy maker in the entire world. I know that there's people that would say that about their wife and all that, like it's the gospel truth. Believe me when I say that my wife is phenomenal. Peanut brittle and stuff like that, we sell that. That works out well because at a literary convention, everybody's selling books and everybody needs to eat, and it's good that you get food for people, good, tasty, yummy food at affordable prices for people to go ahead and buy. You know that, I mean, they will like arm and a leg charge you for food at places. So it's good when you can get something that's reasonable, like $5 is what I mean. That's like reasonable. Get like a $5 little bag of candy or something, and it's something to munch on. You know, swing by a few times and all that. You know, while you're there, whatever. That's if Comic Cons will let me. Totally, that will happen at Comic Cons. I've already asked the MegaCon. Is that okay? Um, we'll see. In 2027, I am planning. That means it is not nailed down yet because they don't like go out that far in advance because they got people that want to repeat and whatnot. And I've ran festivals anyway. I'm planning at being at MegaCon Orlando, Heroes Con Charlotte, and Baltimore Comic Con in 2027. Totally looking to do those. I'm talking about the Mahoning Valley in 2026, which is a one-day thing. In like the dead of winter, that's a horrible time probably to be up north, but it's like a one-day thing. It's just like, you know, get it and hit it and whatnot. Anyway, so here's the type of person that I'm. Let me just give you a quick little blueprint, right? So I've been in bands, right? I actually was in this one group for a little while, and it is the embodiment of the kind of band or group that does not suit me. Maybe it suits you. Do you know what I mean when I say the kind that likes to sit around and like practice and practice and practice and practice, and they never really do anything? I just get up and do it. I'm that with it. I really am. I'm a minimalist drummer. I'm really that with it. But I'm that way in a lot of things, or at least anything that I have a proficiency or proclivency or I'm good at, to any degree. That's just how I roll. That's how I am as a minister with preaching. I'm ready to preach at the drop of a hat, and I could drop the hat and get up and preach. Just get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Was it always that way? Absolutely not. I would cry myself to sleep as a young minister and say, God, why did you call me to do this? And I get up here and it's just this horrible. And then there's these filthy, hypocrite, fake, you know, young preachers. There was a few, I'm not naming any names, that would treat me awful. They were like the schoolyard bully type or whatever, doing awful. And there you had ultra sincere, super legalistic young Benjamin Blankenship. And I would get up and I would stumble all over my words. I almost tripped over my feet literally one time in front of a bunch of preachers. I would get a nervous wreck. I like all flushed faced. Do you know what? Can I tell you the truth? You get over it. You really do. You get up and you do stuff like that enough and you get over it, and it's just not that big of a deal anymore. I'm old and I'm mean, you know, that's why I'm middle-aged. You know, but that's it. I'm 45 now. I just turned 45. In 1999, I asked the Lord if He would give me the ability to write songs, that I would go ahead and that I would write them for Him, and I began writing. I'm not going to go through a big, like, huge thing about it. I'm walking you through fast, okay? I would send those songs out to groups. I would pitch them to like the McCaneys or whoever, different Southern gospel groups. I would pitch them to the groups. Do you know what the answer was that I got? Either no or no answer. You get that in publishing and in comics and prose stuff, whatever. You understand what I mean? The no answer, right? So I'm like, if anybody's going to hear these songs that the anointing of Almighty God is on, that He gave me and allowed me to write and everything, then we're going to have to get up and do them ourselves. So in 2009, so 1999, 2009, this is me with albums worth of songs, right? Multiple albums worth of songs, big albums, like 20 songs an album, right? Literally. You know, it's on Spotify and everything. You can listen to like all the older Ben Jam stuff, newer Ben Jam stuff, all that. Capital, all capitals, BEN asterisk JAM. Again, BEN, shift in the 8 key, JAM, Ben Jam. And you can listen to all kinds of stuff. The production value is all over the place. It was okay. Look back when it gets hotter as it gets newer. Anyway, so in 2009 we would go out and we would me and my mother and my grandma. This is before she had Alzheimer's dementia. And we would sing, and we would sing with tracks, right? And I would say to my mom, well, you play the piano and I can play the drums. I pastored my first church at 20 years old. And I was born in 81, if that helps you, if anybody's doing the math or whatever. I'm not a math guy. But I pastored my first church at 20 years old for a year in Rockwood, Tennessee, in the storefront. And I wasn't playing anything at that point in time. And I'd taken drum lessons as a kid, and they would try to teach me to read music. And that's where they were wrong, because there's things that work for this person but don't work for that person. I do not read music. I play by ear. So again, trying to do it wrong. Don't try and handle a dog like you do a cat, or a fish like you do a squirrel, or whatever. Know what kind of animal something is, right? So when we were pastoring that church, all kinds of stuff had been going on with me in life and ministry. My ministry's been hard all the way through. I'm just going to say a lot of internalized rage and hurt and pain and all that. So it was, we're going to have some percussion, so you're going to learn to play the tambourine. I would beat bruises on my thigh with that tambourine, right? So that was me really getting into percussion. Years later, we were going down to this church. It was the Harriman Church of God of Prophecy for a little while. At that point in time, Larry pastored the church. I don't care to say that, because there's like absolutely nothing negative to say there. But there was an empty drum kit that was there in the church. I said to my mom, who was over the ladies' auxiliary, because she's a go-getter, I'm a go-getter. You know, that's where I get it from. Mama's boy, yeah. So I'm like, I know that I can play those drums, right? So she's like, well, let's go down there on some Saturday. So she opened up the church doors and started playing, and I would mess up. But do you know what you do when you mess up? You get back with it. You don't perpetually fall down the up escalator, but you get back with it. And most people aren't even going to hear if you miss and grab it. Now, I would, but most people aren't going to hear that, you know, especially if you get faster and better at it. And so on, that went through the years. A really helpful thing for me is that we went down to a church that had, and I liked him, but he was an inadequate song leader. I'm not going to go through a big spiel about that, about how somebody's in, and clearly this would be the better choice. If you were to say who was God's choice, instead of I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, but he would like lose time and everything like that. When you're a drummer, if somebody loses time because they're incompetent, someone in the audience that is also incompetent on a different level or whatever, they're going to think that drummer's off time. So as a drummer, I would backpedal, and I would do like little things that would make it sound more correct, even though the person that's singing was getting off time. So that made me a better drummer, even though the drummer is the timekeeper, the one that's supposed to keep the time, right? That would make me a better drummer, that I would compensate. That's what a good actor does, by the way. You make the people that are performing around you seem like they're doing better and all that. They said that about James Dean, because of how you handle it and everything, and how you're interacting with them. So me as a drummer, really simplistic kind of drum. I'm not fancy, but I do what's needed in the song, and I do give like high points to like Meg White and Ringo Starr, which some people would be like, they do what's needed with the song, right? So yeah, anyway, have all this stuff going on in music. About midway through pastoring, and I talked about this in my other video in more length, I started writing books, right? Putting out book after book after book after book after book. Go on Amazon and look it up. B.L. Blankenship. You can find all of the fiction ones. It's a bunch, right? And the ones that are anthologies or collections, it's a bunch of short stories. And then you've got like 4 nonfiction as well that are written under Benjamin Blankenship instead of B.L. Blankenship. I do that to differentiate the fiction and the nonfiction, right? So I'm getting it. In 2024, I stepped into comics. I just wanted to dip my toe in the water. 5 books out in 1 year, right? And it's like, you know, this is just me dipping my toe, and this isn't even me getting in the ring, like putting them up and all that, even though I'm like a martial arts background, so I'd be more like, you know. But, you know, it's just me trying to see that I can, show that I can, and people were impressed by that, you know. When you're in comics, I feel like the best way to get to making comics is to make comics and to network. So one, I'm building up a portfolio showing that yes, I can do that, and two, I'm networking, interacting with people, and the ones that are the most professionals. If you're watching on LinkedIn, God bless you, I love you all. Um, Over 7K people. Who talks to me in comics? A lot of people. Emphasis, a lot of people. Big people, small people. As a matter of fact, all people, probably not, but a bunch of people. That's from a song in school. You know, I'm not going to talk about spilling milk and all that. My kindergarten teacher was amazing. She'd have us sit in a circle and play a guitar. That was my second kindergarten teacher. I got held back. I went into the first grade and I was really hyper. And I would like tip my desk over and say that I'm Batman and like throw pencils at kids. So DC, if you're listening, you absolutely should hire me. But so anyway, I've got like all those comics out already. I've written a bunch more for iShip Comics, which I'm currently the editor in chief. There's plenty more that hasn't came out, hasn't seen the light of day yet, that I've written. Graphic novels that I've written. I mean, a lot of pages, intricate, complex, really nice that I've written. Right. You've got Hellfire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Annual #1, Holy Ghost Exorcist 1 and 2. Small Dog 1, 2, and 3, Phuket Mama #1, reprinting Star Creep 1 and 2, and Whitechapel #1. Could I write more? Absolutely. You know, I really feel like I'm going slow here and everything, but I can only do what I can do, and a lot of that is based on this simple thing: money. Okay, so you know, besides paying artists to do stuff, and I have had artists that have stepped up and that they did things out of like the goodness of their heart or whatever. It's a trade off, or it's this thing, or it's that thing, and all kinds of stuff like that going on. You've got to pay money to print things. You've got to pay money. Listen to me now, because this is an important part, and this is where maybe you could help me and we could work together if you're a certain somebody, right? You've got to pay money to be at conventions and all that. So you see that even if I've got the product to sell, right, and I beat myself down in the red despite the kindness and love, and God bless them, and I will fight for these people that have been good to me in a ditch. You know, I know there's people that say that and don't do it. I actually back it up and bring it. Anyway, I love them. And I'll fight for them. And I remember how people treat me. I've got like elephant brain, right? Going to conventions and everything, that's going to be money too. Have I ever been a special guest at a convention, meaning that they've like comped my cost, paid for my room, paid for my food, all that because of my notoriety as an author? Yes. And it's the best thing. It's glorious. Okay, yes. And I know that there's people in the comic book thing like that get that. If somebody was like, brother, man, I want to share a table with you, I totally down with that. I'm not out there to steal anybody's thunder. In fact, I'm gonna go and not that I could. I'm gonna go and like plug your stuff too. A lot of local creators around here, by the way, that are fabulous and that play nice together, and I really appreciate that. Anyway, yeah. The thing with me, I look at a lot of these campaigns that are going out for comics, for crowdfunding stuff. And I don't like to do those again because what that is to me, and it's not always, but what that is to me is that you have an internet personality. If they had a literal piece of feces and it had a price tag on it, and in some cases, you all know what I mean, there would be people that would line up to buy it. I'm not saying that there aren't people that put out good stuff, because there are people that put out great stuff, but they're buying it because of that person. I'm one of these people that I tend to be in one of two categories with other folks, or at least it's the way that the world makes me feel. People either, one, overestimate me. Staggeringly brilliant, right? Staggeringly talented. Look at all this wow stuff that he can do, right? They overestimate me. They really lift me up. Look at all that you can do. Or two, they underestimate me. And I'm just going to be truthful to you. I don't know which is worse. It's not, because do you know what? Both times you get told no. Can I tell you what? Like, let's rewind back in time before I met my amazing wife, Victoria, right? And I was so sad and I was so lonely, and I would go up and hit on some girl, and I would come off as so smooth. And they'd say, man, you're just some kind of player. No, no, really. No, I mean, it's no, really, really no. So you would get shot down because you're too good for them, or whatever. I mean, I don't know, because the appeal, everything in the world is saying pick him, pick him, pick him, pick him, but they suck, or whatever it is. That's awful. That when you're told no because you're too qualified, when you're told no because you're too talented, when you're told no because that's awful. It's not because you're a loser. It's because man. My wife told me when we started dating, I would hold doors and everything for her, and I still do. She's like, I thought, man, this isn't real. She's like, nobody's like that. But in fact, I am. I don't wear masks. I'm really the way that I am, and not that you can grasp how I am. And maybe that's you. Let me tell you how it is in music, really quick, okay? Um, in gospel music, and not just in gospel music, but in literature, probably in comics, and a lot of other stuff, in everything, probably in life, there are people that will fixate on what you're not and what you can't do instead of who you are and what you can do. So in music, when somebody would see me in music, can I sing? Yes. Am I a great singer? No. And let me tell you a fault of mine. I cannot hear harmony. I know it's there. I can't break it. I can break apart different musical. I can hear what the piano's doing and what the drum's doing and what the bass guitar's doing, and it doesn't all run together. But harmony runs together in my head. I do know that if you have an orchestra and if you have two violins, that they're not both playing the same thing. That one of them is harmonizing with the other. That's the way that music's written, and that's why it sounds the way that it sounds. But I can't isolate them, right? So there's things that I rock. I mean, rock hard at, and um, there's stuff that I can't do. Smart as I am, and I'm brilliant in the things that I'm brilliant in, and the other stuff. And I say this to my wife, and it's like people don't believe that when you're like that hot in something that you're that not in other things. But everybody's like that. People are like, "Why are you like that?" I'm like, "Because I'm not God." I said, "Don't ask me to do math." And I say that for a very specific reason. Don't ask me to do math. Um, no, man. So let me talk to you real quick about 2027 and what I've got going on, and you can read between the lines or figure it out yourself or whatever. And I love working with other people and helping people and whatnot. This is where I'm at. I don't believe in making people like wait for stuff. What I do is I over deliver, right? So with the Hellfire stuff, because that's the series that I'm going to be pushing, and I've got other stuff that's going on too. But let's just break it down as that one thing for an example, right? So Hellfire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an annual, all of which are flip books. They have like Small Dog or Holy Ghost Exorcist or Phuket Mama on the flip side. That means you flip it over, have prose stories in there as bonus content, all that good stuff. I'm having them all done before the first one even prints. Why can I do that and say DC Comics can't do that? That's not a dig. Why can I do that and DC Comics can't do that? Because it's a brand new thing and there's absolutely no demand on it right now, okay? So I can go ahead and I can do that without having this huge line of people, skeleton crew, without having this huge line of people and have all of this stuff done. And then I can stagger it out. It's on as low key as possible. I can stagger it out and have this book come out in November, and this one in December, and this one in January, and this one in February, and this one in March, and this one in April. Boom. I can go ahead and I can do that. And that's the way that my mind is wired, because it's absolutely infuriating and it looks ridiculously incompetent when you see comic book companies. I'm not going to name a big list, but an easy one to name would be like Distillery. And I don't know what they've got going on behind the scenes, but when months and months and months and months, not that they've got a bunch of books that I think, wow, I've tried them a couple times. It's really not my thing. I like Bad Idea. A lot of the stuff that they put out, they're rocking and rolling, putting out, but they're also crowdfunding because they've got some names that have that, the pull and the draw, Robert Vendetti and all that. He's worked for the big two and whatnot. They've got all that goodness going on. But I think I want to go ahead and I want to do that. Any of this type of stuff. So let's just say that line, right? Let's just say that hellfire catches fire. That people line up. This is my favorite comic. This is the best comic. Whatever. We're not saying like absolute Batman levels, but we're saying like successful. We're saying that it's a successful comic. What's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen if it makes enough money to substantiate, i.e., pay for doing a season 2 and or a season 3, then you'll get a season 2 and or a season 3. Now, unlike Marvel, there's not going to be a reboot on it. So, issue 1, people that want to get into it, it's still going to work as a starting point. Now, I know, because you're like, but wait a second. But people get like an immediate, thing when they reboot it to number 1, and then it hurts it in the long term so bad that heads should roll, right? No, I'm not doing that. It sounds more like manga or whatever that I'm doing. That number 1 is number 1, right? I would just like start a new series or an annual or whatever. There ain't gonna be no reboot. Why would there be a reboot? Also, you've got me, the creator of it, the dude that made the Hellfire thing that's hanging on to control over it. Great. It would be great adapted into a movie. It would be great adapted into a streaming thing, but it would be a true adaptation, because anybody that doesn't do a true adaptation, they need to be fired and never work in that type of stuff again. I don't care if it's Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, whatever. That's absolute trash. We're going to make it for the modern audience, then you're making it for nobody. If you're making it for everybody, if you're making it for somebody that it wasn't intended for, if you don't actually truly like it, we're going to take the Bible, but we're going to twist it around into something else. You know what the Bible says about that? That you're going to burn in hell forever for doing that. That's what it says. If you take anything away from this, then your name will be taken out of the Lamb's Book of Life and all that. So, I know I'm talking about like fictitious, the G.I. Joe or whatever, doesn't matter. I would rather fail on my own terms, whatever. If I was playing in somebody else's sandbox, I would play by their rules, and Hellfire's my baby. So, whatever. Rock and roll. If it was a non-serious thing, then I could be non-serious about it. But, if it matters to you, it matters, and it matters to me. So, whatever. If I'm burning my money out in the parking lot, that's what's happening. If I could get into conventions cheaper, that would work. If I could raise more funding, that would work. Let me be real with you here, okay? And I'm not one of these people that's like trying to fight for some agenda or trying to get up and bash this thing or that thing. I like to talk about the stuff that I like and focus on the stuff that I like and that I enjoy. And I'm not saying I'm dancing in somebody's grave or whatever. I really feel like that when you had this band of people that got together and had this supposed camaraderie, even though there's way more behind it, that called themselves Comicsgate, which I've never been a part of and refused to join. I even had some dude say, "Man, you're just not like a joiner, are you?" I've always stood on the outside. I stand on the outside and I see stuff. I'm a Sigma male and whatever. I played well with others, whatnot. I'm not marginalizing anybody. There's people that are part of this group and that group and this thing and that thing that are fine and wonderful and all that, and there's people that aren't, whatever. I think that a lot of people thought that this is going to be like another Image Comics, that they have that amount of profound competence in what they're doing, because Image was a joke when it came out, right? Rob Liefeld talks about that constantly. But here's the deal: you had Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, all these people. You had some people that really had some stuff behind them, and I just want to emphasize on this: Todd McFarlane. Again, not that I'm a Todd McFarlane type guy, but I've just told you the way that I do things. So here here I am on a shoestring budget, keeping the ceiling as low as possible and can produce. So I see these dudes on there, and some other dude will like make fun of them, and they'll be like, they only made $70,000 or whatever in their campaign. Ah ha 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 ha. I would have like an entire comic series, drawn, colored, everything printed and shipped out, to comic shops for a year if I had $70,000 of backing funds. The comics would be in your hand, for that. And the wheels would keep turning. And I'm saying that happens with like one book for somebody, but for B.L. Blankenship, you would be getting that, all that, and then people that would be telling other people how much they like this thing. Issue number one would keep selling. Issue number two would keep selling. Issue number three would keep selling. Issue number four would keep selling. All that kind of stuff. They'd be available on digital. Nickel and dime it, whatever. It would still be a thing, and it would still keep rolling, and all that. So I mean, I hear about this stuff, and people act like, you know. I don't live in California. I live in East Tennessee. That's like a year's wages, man, of a full-time job. $70,000 is, that's nothing to laugh about when somebody makes that in 30 days because people believe in them or their product. So to be clear, for that amount of money, in regards to me, how much of that would you be making to live your lifestyle and all that? Zero. I'm about principle. I would rather suffer building something and make it a thing and pay my artists and pay the printers and all that kind of stuff and get it rolling and have them profit more as it went on. Because it's my dream and it's me to, whatever. Then all that. I work a full-time job. You know, I go at it. I don't know. This is just me putting this out there to you and telling you about the way that it is in regards to me. They say that you can judge a fish by the way that it climbs a tree, but if you do, you're an idiot. Um, we're not all the same animal. Some people truly need $70,000 to do I don't know, 60-page book or whatever. All of my Hellfire stuff is 48 pages, most of which is like 30 illustrated pages and then pro stories and all that with it. And two covers. The covers cost me, more than the interior pages. But yeah, so that's what I could do at this phase, at this point in it. Would I like to build things up more? Yeah. What's what's going to happen after that deal? Well, I'll tell you. I already have a book slated because I want to do it. I'm going to do it. I want to do it. Unless I die, uh, for 2028, and it's going to be a Christian, type comic book thing. The likelihood that it'll tie into this, I mean, I don't care to tell you that there's some. I'm really thinking that it's going to be an extension to a Holy Ghost Exorcist comic stuff. Really, and the novel's phenomenal, by the way. You absolutely should read the novel. But if you don't want to, if you're not into novels, fine, don't. It's available in digital format. It's available in physical format. B.L. Blankenship, Holy Ghost Exorcist. I love it. I think it's great. It takes place in 1972. Um, but he has just a short role, in the back of two of the Hellfire things, and he'll pop in as a character. And I thought it would be good to give him a story worth telling in comic form. So it's going to be a supernatural power encounter, all that kind of stuff, and everything going on with this prayerful, faithful, humble preacher man. But yeah. There will be that, which means that you'll see me at some other cons and everything. And if I go up in flames, if I spend and spend and spend and spend and nobody buys and work and work and work and work and nobody cares, then if you thought I was a problem for whatever reason, and I can't imagine why you would, but the problem would take care of itself, wouldn't it? I'd say this isn't working. Um, you know, it's an unrequited love. I'm making comics because I want to. I'm not just making comics because I want to, but I'm making them because I feel like, hey, I'm good at this. Um, you run into different kinds of people. You run into some people that want to give you advice, but it doesn't really help you, or whatever. So I'm telling you where I'm at. If you're saying, what has Ben Blankenship? Ben Blankenship is a guy who can write well and write fast and produce. And maybe I don't do it the same way as Joe Blow over here, this guy or that guy or whatever, but that's what I do. As somebody with a background in literature, I guess you can say that now, as I've written enough stuff and I've talked to enough authors and what have you. I'm not one of these like weird people that you hear about in comic stuff, if that even exists. That like you want to grab everybody else's stuff. You're a glory grabber. You want to grab all that you can grab and get all that you can get and can what you can and sit on the lid and poison the rest and or however that saying goes. I like other writers. There's people that can bring something to the table that I can't bring, and there's stuff that I can bring to the table that other people can't bring, and that's normal. That's the way that life works, right? It's that way in art. It's that way in music. It's that way in writing. I play well with other people. I would consider this a win if I make money, like enough money off of this stuff to keep it going, and hopefully more. I would like to make obscene amounts of money doing this. I really would, but ground level stuff, I would just like to make enough to be able to produce more. Now, I mean, if you care, if you're like, what kind of person is B.L. Blankenship? Well, B.L. Blankenship is the Reverend Benjamin Blankenship that believes in feeding the poor and all that, and believes things about the Bible, even when they're not convenient. So that's how I am. I don't believe in just like loving people with word, but with deed and truth. I'm nice to everybody, all that. Even if I don't agree with you, even if you were wrong, that doesn't per se make you my enemy or me your enemy. Because I'm wrong plenty of times. As smart as I am, I'm wrong an embarrassing amount of times, and that's the way that we all are. If you're really like analyzing yourself, otherwise you're in for a rude awakening one day. But yeah, I would see it as a win if I got some other kinds of jobs out of this. Um, if somebody at Image or Marvel or DC or any of these publishers, IDW or whatever, if they're like, man, if they're like, this guy can write. He just get it done, 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 and get it done well. Let's just have him do something and see if this equates to sales. I would wear it like a feather in my cap, and I mean, and I'm not gonna act like I wouldn't. I mean, I think that that's great. There's some very nice people out there in comics. I've ran into some very wonderful people, and whatever. That's just where I'm at. I'm not really even trying to build an empire or anything at this point or what have you. Um, I'm just trying to get my feet wet. I'm just trying to get in it, see if something can be made to happen and all that. Um, I had somebody talk about like sharing tables and splitting costs and all that. But I mean, I don't have people like running up to me overall and saying, man, I want to partner with you and I want to do all this stuff with you. And it's unfortunate because it would help me. It would help shave some of my expenses off and help me to be in the black that much more. But believe in supporting other creators. I like to support other creators. I try to support other creators. I support my local comic shop. I have a pull list that I show a lot of times. There are other indie creators that I also support, and I do what I can. And I almost wonder in some capacity too. And I'm going to wrap this up. And I know how painful that is when a preacher says in closing, because I mean that's 20 more minutes, right? But I feel like there's a lot of people, right or wrong, that it's like, wow, I'm looking for him to support my stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that I would really like to financially support that I haven't jumped on and financially supported. And why is that? Because I'm spending money out of my nose, going this hard and this heavy, to the point that it should be like rattling a bell, getting people's attention and all that. And if you absolutely don't care, let that say something about you. Uh, I mean, if you don't have all that going on, and it's just like, who cares? Who cares about him? Okay, well, you will be judged the way that you judge others. I do think about film, and I do care, and I do see some stuff that I think, hey man, that looks pretty cool. And there's other things that just aren't my flavor and all that, and I hope that they do well with the audience. That is their thing. Um, but I'm really giving a lot. I'm really going in deep, and I can only do as much as I can do, and I really have to like weigh it out and all that. But I like to see other people do well, and quite frankly, if you lift up the BL Blankenship stuff and all that, there's a bunch of artists that are going to be employed. So let me run it through for you, okay? Really quick. And in closing, if Hellfire season one, it's making gangbusters, bukus of money. It's doing it right. How am I going to do this? Well, I can't just have one artist doing the entire second season and get it to you in a reasonable amount of time. Now, I'm not necessarily planning on doing like how Marvel or DC does and all that, where they've got a penciler over here and they've got an inker over there and everything like that. I'm planning on having the same people ink that pencil and whatnot. And maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. There's benefits and there's not benefits to all that. But I would say that there would be a 3-part arc or a 2-part arc or whatever, and I would have this guy doing that, like Andre. And then I would have like a 2-part or a 3-part arc over here, and I would have like this dude doing that. And then I would have like another thing over here, and I'd have another thing over here. So I would break it up, and it would be like, okay, so you're doing like these 2 or 3 issues in a row, and then this other person is doing these 2 or 3 issues in a row that's like following them. And I guess everybody understands that's watching this in comics how that works, whether it's Vermin or the Green Goblin or Raven or Vulture or who Craven, bleh, or Vulture, or whoever, I'm saying Spider-Man stuff or what have you. Regardless of whoever it is, that you would have like an arc, part 1 of 4 or whatnot. That I would think that I would break season 2 apart like that way, and then when it was go time, when they were done, I would have them stagger out, and it would be bang, 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 month after month after month after month after month after month after month. So it would just really come down to, it'd take several months for somebody to be able to do 3 issues, but I would have multiple people jumping on doing that. And so then in, say 6 months time, that you would have an entire year's worth of stuff going on, and things look like they're going well enough, or it's made enough money for number 3, and I would kind of do that thing for season 3 as well for the Hellfire stuff, and then any other things that are going on. So I would be employing multiple artists and have stuff like that going on, and I would do it in a way like that where it worked for them, and I would really like for sales to keep building and growing and getting higher. Why? So I could pay these people more money. I want them to live nice. I mean, they work. I want them to live good lives and to be getting some good money from this. So many of them have been nice and charitable and everything. Uh, here's my take, right? Rewind back, talk about Todd McFarlane when Image Comics was made and all that. Todd McFarlane was making these Spider-Man comics, and they were selling like 1 million copies, and he didn't get a bonus. He didn't even get a plaque. He went in and he talked to Stan Lee about that. He was irate about that. He's like, my dad worked in a factory, and if my dad would have did this stuff, they would have at least got him a plaque or a watch or something. If things are blowing up and it's like, wow, you know what? Show gratitude to the people that you work with money, with not just work, say it, but actually show that too. That's where I'm at. I want to help people. I'm a go-getter, I guess you know that. I've been over music festivals. People wanted me over more and more and more music festivals. It's rough too because there were a bunch of them that I was doing that I wasn't getting paid for, and you can only do so much for free, especially when you do it as well as I do it, and I do it well. But you can only do so much for free, and let me tell you something with that too. Um, the reason that they went as well as they went is because I would get involved with competent people and I would have them come along. And if I was getting paid a bunch of money, I would have my band friends that would be the one that we would be using their sound system and all that for. They would be getting money too because they would be running sound and it would be their sound system. So I mean that I'd be emceeing and organizing and all that, and I would have them do the other stuff. So it's not like, hey, I got to do it all. That's stupid. Um, you get an account with Moses and his father-in-law in the Bible about that, where Moses was doing too much stuff, and you don't need to do that. You need to delegate those things out. Here's what good leadership is, and if you're not doing this, then you're not good leadership, or for whatever reason you're wrong. You get people that thrive in doing a particular kind of job, and you let them do it. That's all it is, right? That's all that it is. As a pastor of a church, when I would have a worship leader, which would in turn be my wife, she's fantastic at it, but have a worship leader, my job is not to dictate every song that she does as a worship leader and to micromanage her. If you do that and you're a manager, you can clip this. If you do that and you're a manager, you micromanage people, you shouldn't be a manager. You are a failure. You suck. Um, Nepo baby or something. I don't know. Smoking buddy. I've seen all that garbage. Good leadership is you get somebody that's good at doing a job and you let them do it. And if they're not good at doing the job, if they're just a placeholder and somebody else comes along that's better, no, you do not just cut the cord. And this is preacherly. You phase them out. Is what you do of that job. You don't necessarily throw them away. You put them in a position where they will thrive so you can uplift them and let them shine. And if they can't shine, then why are they even there to begin with? I try to do what I can do. I love working with other people. Love the readers, love the other creators, the artists, the writers. I could go on and on and on and talk about all the good points of this guy over here and that gal over there, and so on and so forth. But that's where I'm in comics. Anyway, I heard this long spiel today about somebody that felt like they had put in more than they had got out with a particular group of people and such in comics. It does not affect me at all if somebody's making comics that I don't like. If I feel like the comics are pure garbage, if the comics were pure garbage, if they were like heretical, blasphemous, poorly written, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, again, that I'm like, stay away from me. Whatever that is, um, that's no skin off of my nose. I don't have to read them. I pick up and I read what appeals to me. And most things, and I don't sit around and make like all these anti videos or whatever either. Most things are kind of, in my eyes, mid. They're not bad, and they're not something that I love and embrace enough that I want to keep spending money on it when I've got other stuff that I need to spend money on. Um, but they're okay. It's okay. You know, um, most stuff is, but it doesn't bother me one bit if something just totally isn't me. Go ahead and make it, because everybody's not gonna like westerns. Everybody's not gonna like noir. Everybody's not gonna like true crime. Everybody's not gonna like the types of things that I like to write or read or whatever. Christian horror, Southern Gothic, whatever. Everybody's not gonna like this thing or that thing. I've really not hit a wall. Comedy, I like comedy. I've really not hit a wall with yes, dear. I've really not. Yes, dear. I've really not hit it. My wife is texting me. I've really not hit a wall or anything with writing yet. It is what it is, but at this point, I'm writing what I like. This is BL Blankenship out. That's my wife telling me it's time to shut up and go to bed. Do you have somebody like that in your life?